Hello, this is Don with PlotNG. Welcome to our PlotNG version 2 update. We're very excited to announce that we're completing final testing of PlotNG version 2. Today, I'll be previewing PlotNG version 2 beginning with this keynote overview. Just to make sure that everyone is on the same page, Jeppesen has announced the sunsetting of JepFD and is recommending as its replacement ForeFlight. While JepFD was originally supposed to be discontinued in the US at the end of 2021, we note that it is still available, but will be discontinued sometime in 2022. What you're seeing is a screenshot of ForeFlight with all of PlotNG's features turned on. We'll talk about PlotNG in a moment. Given our tremendously large user base, the odds are excellent that many of you in the audience are already using PlotNG, so a short discussion is in order of what exactly has changed. For those of you who are not PlotNG customers, this keynote will give you a brief introduction as to what our philosophy and values are. Probably the single biggest change is how we handle moving flight plan information into and out of ForeFlight. The current version of PlotNG has a very slick method to load your route into ForeFlight, but it only works in Apple Mail. We provide an alternative method that works with all other email apps. There has been a rather large push in corporate flight departments to use third-party email services such as Outlook, and so we've developed an even more elegant, universal solution that works the same way in all email applications. This means if you use Outlook or Gmail, or something similar, you no longer have to download TripKit components from our servers, and there are no longer any time restrictions. All TripKit data is kept local on your iPad. The second biggest change is that we now include every capability of PlotNG in every TripKit. You no longer need to change any settings to customize PlotNG to meet your specific needs. Eliminating user settings means that account users no longer need to log into PlotNG, so we got rid of that too. Now, only one online account is needed to manage PlotNG, whether that's an owner-operator, an individual contract pilot, or a flight department manager overseeing a team of pilots. We've completely redesigned our flight plan engine to make it faster, generate highly optimized trip kits, and become even more standards-based. PlotNG's layer menu options in ForeFlight have been restructured to provide an enhanced decluttering and operational experience. More about this later. The ETP graphics were redesigned to use more industry-familiar graphics, and the ETP ancillary data was enhanced to better reflect the reality of how pilots handle contingencies. We're now providing contingency procedures as a pop-up on the map screen. Previously, the procedures loaded into ForeFlight documents. This is a much faster operation, it keeps the user on one screen, and is much more intuitive. We now only provide NAT tracks. Pacific tracks and Australian tracks are not included in the trip kit, and I'll speak more about this when we get to the track slide. All data interactions are now driven from the map screen. This is an important step in making ForeFlight as easy to use as possible with the least amount of taps required. The rule is simple. If you see a round target on the screen on any PlotNG layer, you can tap it to show additional information. The same symbol type is used on all layers, albeit color-coded. We're now providing both 10-minute checks and 5-minute checks in every trip kit. You can display none, either, or both. It's up to you. Of course, if you're a 135 operator, you'll need an LOA from the FAA to use different G&E checkpoint locations. Lastly, I'll note that during the past year, the FAA rather quietly removed a large chunk of information from 8900.1 regarding Class II airspace and oceanic operations. Only recently have they replaced it with updated language. Regardless of their intent, on its face, there is a bit of a disconnect about where exactly one needs to plot G&E checkpoints. PlotNG continues to provide suggested locations where it would be a terrific idea to do these checks. We're a bit conservative in the way we provide our recommendations, but our feeling is that it's always better to have more checkpoints and not need them than to come up short. At the end of the day, 91.3 prevails, so this decision is always the pilot in command's responsibility. That said, for those of you who fly polar routes, you'll note that there are more suggested G&E checkpoints than before. Whereas many FMS manufacturers tell operators to switch to true course navigation when above 70 degrees north latitude, when it comes to G&E checks, we suggest that any waypoints located above 65 degrees north latitude should be checked, especially in the vicinity of Iceland, where the magnetic variations widely diverge. These refinements are intended to make PlotNG virtually transparent to your operation. It just works. But first, I'd like to frame the conversation to help you understand how we think about electronic plotting. We understand the limitations of using iPads in the cockpit. A proven strategy to mitigate software lockups and reduce user input errors is to run only one application at a time. PlotNG, which is a for-flight add-in, is an automatic solution to this problem. A principal goal of PlotNG version 2 is to make an already easy-to-use service even simpler. Pilots not flying internationally on a regular basis will enjoy how easy it is to learn to use and to maintain currency with PlotNG. The primary way we achieve this is to fully automate reading and interpreting the data in your flight plan, and then translating that into simple pictures, all without having you manually enter a single piece of data. There are two parts to managing the data of any international flight. The pre-flight planning, which includes the flight plan, the ETPs, and the plot, or what we call the static data, and the in-flight data updates, which include G&E checks and master document updates, or what we call the dynamic data. PlotNG believes that you should use the best tool available for the job. There are a myriad of ways to store and manage your data, and we encourage you to use whichever solution works best for you. PlotNG is a bit unorthodox in the way it works. Simply put, you forward the flight plan PDF email you receive from your provider directly to PlotNG. In under 1 minute, you'll receive an email, which is what we call a trip kit, that contains your complete electronic plotting solution. We can read the flight plans from all of these providers, regardless of the format you choose to use. You don't need to change your provider, your format, or your procedures. Do everything exactly the same way as you've done before. There's no retraining and no procedural SOPs that need to be rewritten to accomplish this step. You'll notice that ARINC Direct and ForeFlight Dispatch are also included in this list. I made a pun in the title of this slide, but you should take it rather seriously. If you don't have your oceanic charts in order, or you don't know how to use your electronic plotting solution, then you really shouldn't start your engines. As I review PlotNG, I'll be referring to these principles to help you understand why we do things the way we do. Probably the number one question we get is how to do G&E checks. I'll note that question has everything and yet nothing to do with PlotNG. We think portable GPS devices such as Bad Elf, Stratus, Dual, etc. are the bee's knees. Not only do they provide a completely independent source of navigation, but they do it with wicked precision. Many, if not most, aircraft are equipped with onboard Wi-Fi. That said, you can only use one source of nav data at a time, and the FAA wants you to use a certified source. That means your non-steering FMS. There are several ways to get your present position into ForeFlight. Manual entry, a portable device connected via Bluetooth or Wi-Fi, or your non-steering FMS through your ship's Wi-Fi. If you're lucky enough to have onboard Wi-Fi, and your ARINC 429 data bus is connected to the network, you'll have automatic access to a certified navigation source, and your G&E checks will be nothing more than a single tap on the screen. As an aside, if you have onboard Wi-Fi but you turn it off while oceanic, it's very possible that your local area network will still function. So you'll more than likely be able to continue to view own ship and display present position as reported from your non-steering FMS. Okay, this is what the new trip kit email looks like. And by the way, everything that you're seeing today could change before version 2 hits the streets, but I'm betting that won't happen. Notice that the blue button to load your route into ForeFlight was removed. We've replaced that with a load route attachment. This attachment will work with any email application and functions exactly the same way regardless of the app you use. Also notice the size of the content pack. It's 23 kilobytes. This is down from 600 kilobytes. Because of this reduction in size, in-flight reroutes that could benefit from a new PlotNG trip kit no longer require any special PlotNG commands in the subject line of the email. Everything downloads in an instant. Your Wi-Fi costs are much less expensive, and your connectivity will be far more reliable. We now add the departure and destination airports to the route. Should you have any company security software that prevents proper operation of the load route attachment, you will always be able to easily copy and paste this route directly into ForeFlight. The magnetic course and distance calculations are optimized to only display what is actually needed. ForeFlight now has the ability to easily provide the same information. Now, we don't know if ForeFlight uses ARINC 424 data to determine the magnetic variation, or if they calculate the magnetic variation using the World Magnetic Model or some other analytical method. We use the World Magnetic Model and we document what we do. This means there is a very high degree of likelihood that what you see on your PFD will match what's in our report. I'm calling this slide the kitchen sink, but it's really just a screenshot of almost every PlotNG feature turned on. During normal operation, you probably won't be displaying all of these layers. Though it's not actually required, we put the TMI on every track label to enhance situational awareness and communications with ATS. Note that all of the plotting graphics are completely taken care of by PlotNG. There is no reason to use any of the graphic drawing tools provided in ForeFlight. That is for the purpose of meeting the requirements of AC 9170B. We're using new symbology for ETPs, and regardless of direction of flight, we make sure the arrows correctly suggest the direction to initially turn in the event of a course deviation. Note the ETP locations are denoted with much smaller color-coded circles or bullseye icons. As I said before, anytime you see a bullseye, you can tap on it for more information. Most significantly, the Layers menu has been completely redesigned to make them much easier to read and provide for a more intuitive set of options. The ETPs are grouped according to diversion airport pairs. This allows you to declutter your map and display only the next ETP group on the screen. Also note that there are two different G&E layers, 10 minutes and 5 minutes. Choose the one most appropriate to your SOPs. About a year ago, ForeFlight included in their Jeppesen NOTAMs the oceanic contingency procedures. Of note was the fact that not all FIR regions included these notes. PlotNG has always and continues to provide a contingency bullseye strategically located near the oceanic route segment. When tapped, it brings up effectively ICAO 15.2 Oceanic Contingency Procedures. It's right on the map screen. It's quick, it's easy, and it's there when you need it. Of course, we've added enhanced text formatting so it's much easier to read. Displaying ETPs on the route is only one piece of the puzzle. The other piece is to highlight the diversion airports. We used to color code airports according to their use: green for one engine inoperative, blue for depressurization, red for medical, and black for PNR or PSR. What we learned is that only on rare occasion do operators file a partial complement of ETP contingencies. So we decided to make the plotting chart even easier to read and choose colors and highlights that work terrific in daytime or nighttime in reverse video. Now that you can declutter ETPs by group, we found that there is no longer any need to include the ETP 100 layer, that is, replacing 3 ETPs with just the most fuel-critical ETP. When you tap on the white bullseye located adjacent to the ETP arrowheads, you'll get altitude and speed to the diversion airport. Because ETP data is only valid at the ETP point, we've eliminated all point-specific information to get from the ETP to the diversion airport. We could have provided a multitasking add-in to give you dynamic information about where the ETP is relative to your present position. But given the relatively rare occurrence of emergencies, our opinion is that it serves little purpose. Use your FMS to get this data. It is the certified source. And don't forget, you can quickly use the two-finger salute and have ForeFlight give you direction, time, and fuel from your present position to any place on the world by using the measuring tool. The graphical reroute solution is still available, and if feedback from the field has told us anything, is that you guys love it. Again, unless you've hit the trifecta and get a full reroute clearance, simply accept your CPDLC message, manually edit your ForeFlight route by dragging or rubber banding fixes, or use the route editor. It's much quicker. But if you want to generate a new PlotNG trip kit, there are no special options to learn or remember. We remove them. Note the diversion airport on the right side of the screen. Note the G&E checks. We've renamed them from the pilot vernacular of 10-minute check to G&E 10 check. This is the FAA preferred nomenclature. Remember, you're checking your navigation performance for any cross-track errors. You're not checking your time. We're showing the 10-minute checks here in yellow. The 5-minute checks are in a muted orange to help differentiate them. It's important to note that you might have a 5-minute G&E checkpoint, but not a 10-minute G&E checkpoint. We won't display a suggested point if, for example, the next fix occurs before 10 minutes at your filed cruise speed, or if the next fix is a ground-based nav aid and you're within the service volume. There are several other edge cases that we consider to help simplify your ADM. The G&E checks are best performed using ForeFlight's marked positions. They are beyond precise, and depending on your GPS present position source, may not require any manual data entry. And most important, it's a way that we leverage the capabilities to integrate with ForeFlight while embracing best practices. When PlotNG was first introduced, marked positions were not offered in ForeFlight, so we suggested entering your latitude and longitude in the search box, or create a user waypoint to mark the position. We didn't care for that because there was too much opportunity for data entry errors. ForeFlight then offered marked positions, and voila! We always encourage pilots to use the simplest and most precise ways to enter latitudes and longitudes. Note that you can also add any additional information besides the time in Zulu, so the need to write anything on your ForeFlight screen with the annotation tools is completely eliminated, at least for this exercise. There have been some significant operational changes to the NAT tracks, and we expect more changes coming this year. By virtue of the critical nature of these tracks and the procedures they require flight crews to explicitly follow, we've decided to provide the full track message customized for the track and available as a pop-up on the map screen. As always, we provide the TMI number for enhanced situational awareness and reporting. If a flight level also corresponds to a PBCS level, we'll indicate that in the flight level section as well. There are two significant reasons why we include these tracks at all. First, in ForeFlight, you cannot display their tracks, which appear on the aeronautical layer, at the same time you're displaying a Jeppesen oceanic chart. PlotNG can display our tracks over any chart. And second, ForeFlight tracks are temporal, meaning that when a new track message is published, ForeFlight will display that new information. That's great for the flight, but not so great 3 months from now when you might be responding to an inquiry regarding a possible pilot deviation. Our tracks are static, so if you were to reload the trip kit in 3 months, you'll see the tracks exactly as they appeared on the day of the flight. There's no right or wrong answer to this one, just a different perspective. I'd also note that there are 3 specific items in a SAFA check that directly pertain to oceanic plotting charts. You could think of our solution as a CYA strategy. We've eliminated Pacific and Australian tracks. Besides the fact that Australia hasn't issued a track message in over a year, both of these oceanic track systems are used more for routing and less procedurally, although, and it bears repeating, that all oceanic deviation procedures are fundamentally the same worldwide. Again, we're trying to simplify things for you. If you want or need these tracks, use ForeFlight. You can always mitigate the problem of displaying ForeFlight tracks over a Jeppesen oceanic chart by simply choosing to display the free FAA's PAC chart instead. We have a number of technical publications that we can provide to you just for the asking, including this one that describes the legal basis for using PlotNG and provides guidance for updating your SOPs, including sample checklists. PlotNG is not an EFB. ForeFlight is the EFB. We operate as an add-in to ForeFlight, and it's for this reason and because you can always carry a spare blank chart. PlotNG is not mission critical, so there are no special approvals needed to use PlotNG. 135 operators will more than likely need to specifically state which electronic plotting solution they use but again, specific approval is not required for PlotNG. If you use a separate app for electronic plotting, all bets are off, and you'll more than likely need to obtain approval from your PI. As I said earlier, PlotNG takes only 10 minutes to learn how to use. Training can be described as learning how to load a route and flight plan, calling up the various plotting layers, and removing the data from your iPad. There are absolutely no other procedures you need to know regarding PlotNG because there is no data entry. However, there are plenty of procedures you'll need to learn about for flight. Which brings us to document management. This is the second most frequent technical support question we receive. Ironically, most of our technical support is consumed by for-flight related questions, and we're happy to help. PlotNG deliberately does not include any type of data management, and in fact in version 2, we've removed the email archive capability. Frankly, it costs us nothing to provide it, but we believe its presence hampers the decision-making process flight departments and contract pilots should be actively engaged in. And by the way, this functionality is trivial to set up on your own. PlotNG does not want to impose its methodologies on you regarding your 6-month storage requirements. Many flight departments have IT departments that oversee their data center operations, and this also includes regulating software use to mitigate security concerns. Fundamentally, we want our customers to use a solution that works best for them and empowers them to maintain their own data. The FAA is right that every flight department needs to think through and implement a plan for a document management standard and then adhere to it. As part of our product demos, we always show pilots how you can easily manage your master document from within ForeFlight, and doing it without requiring an Apple Pencil or any additional software. But there are many other terrific apps that pilots regularly use and depend on for their daily workflows, for example, GoodReader, and we say, go ahead and use them. Because you may not fly a lot of oceanic trips each year, you may want to keep your master document update procedures as simple as possible. In fact, you just might want to continue using your kneeboard and a pencil. Of course, at the end of the trip, you can use your iPad to take pictures of the 3 or 4 pages in your master document containing your notes and then save them to your storage device. It's now in an electronic form, easily searchable and retrievable, so there's really no reason to overthink or overcomplicate this task. However, we know that many flight departments want to go completely electronic, that is, no more paper in the cockpit. There are many ways to accomplish this goal, from simply annotating a digital version of a master document, think ForeFlight, all the way to a full custom application that tracks every step and requires continuous data management. At PlotNG, we prefer to keep it simple. ForeFlight provides several mechanisms for storing data on its server, storing data on your own server, storing data in the cloud, or sharing data with third-party apps. iOS provides for even more diverse solutions. As all of these aviation services and apps evolve, you can certainly look forward to new emerging solutions. And you can rest assured that PlotNG will always strive for the simplest possible solution. If this is your first time using electronic plotting, an easy way to store your trip data is to use a free online email account such as Gmail or Outlook, or a free cloud storage account such as Google Drive or Dropbox. You can transition to a more sophisticated model as you gain experience and develop a better understanding of your long-term needs. Or you can unleash your inner power user without any investment other than your time and weave together a custom solution that models your company's workflows by using Apple's iOS shortcut app that's included with every iPad. The choice is yours. If you'd like more information or would like to schedule a free demo training session for your flight department, please call us. We're here to help.